Welcome back to Team Blue TV. We continue our basics series with episode 2. What? There's a state legislature? How many senators do I even have anyways? This is about your state legislature. And we're going to be talking about Minnesota, but this does apply to a lot of other states as well in terms of how things are set up. The state legislature is where the real nitty-gritty of where your state business takes place. And here is the Minnesota State Capitol, where 67 senators and 134 representatives meet to decide all of our fates. In our last video, we talked about the national legislature and how you get 2 senators per state, and each state is also divided up into national congressional districts for the House of Representatives. Each state is also divided up for the state legislature into Senate districts. Each Senate district sends 1 senator to the Capitol, and state Senate districts contain about 79,000 people each. They are also subject to the 10-year census that we talked about in the last video. This blue area represents the metro area, and districts down here are much smaller because you can get to that 79,000 head count in a much smaller space because it's so densely populated. Senate districts are simply divided into 2 to form congressional districts, Section A and Section B. So you have twice the number of congressional districts with half the population as Senate districts. Each congressional district sends 1 representative to the Minnesota House of Representatives. Minnesota state senators serve 4-year terms, and members of the House of Representatives serve 2-year terms. This means that our House is up in November 2018, but our Senate is not up until 2020 because the last election was 2016. And you can find all this information on the Minnesota Secretary of State website, where you can also click on each district for a detailed map of the district boundaries. You can also go to this awesomely named web page to find out what district you're in. The Legislative Coordinating Commission's Geospatial Information page. And I'm going to use an address in International Falls. It's actually McDonald's, but we'll pretend it's a person. So there you can see who represents this McDonald's. Its Senate district is 3, which is then divided up into congressional districts A and B, and this McDonald's is in A. Its national congressional district is 8, and then it has 2 senators, just like everyone in Minnesota, or everyone in every state for that matter. So let's take a look at where things are at right now in the state legislature in Minnesota. We have 34 Republican senators and 33 Democrats, and we have 77 Republican representatives and 57 Democrat representatives. So let's see what this looks like throughout the state. We're looking at a map that shows the margin of victory the last time there was a Senate election, which was 2016. So the light pink means that the Republican candidate won by up to 5%. If it's a little darker, it means they won by 5 to 15%. And if it's dark red, it means their candidate won by over 15%. And the same goes for the Democratic victories with the light dark and darkest blue being the biggest victories. And so this is a good time to remember that representation is determined by population and not by acreage. So you might be looking at a large red area and feeling kind of depressed, but a large red area doesn't have any more power or representation than a tiny blue district that is more densely populated. So if you look at Senate District 1, it's quite large, but they still only get 1 senator. And down here in the metro area, you can get that 79,000 head count in a tiny little district. It looks ineffective and tiny because of how our brains work, but remember it has just as much power as the big red guys. Remember that too when you're looking at national maps. Look at numbers versus visual amounts of red. So the magic number for the Senate to control it is 34, but we don't get a shot at that until 2020, with the possible exception of a special election that may arise because Michelle Fischbach may be violating state constitution, but that's another topic. In terms of activity in the state Senate, there have been no flips. There was 1 resignation by Dan Schoen of District 54, but he was replaced by Democrat Carla Bigham, so it's not a flip. And the end total is the same. So here's what the House looks like right now. Again, you see a lot of red, don't panic. And the magic number for control of the House is 68, and we need to flip 11 seats. There have been no flips. We had one resignation by Tony Cornish in 23B, but he was replaced by a Republican, so again, the end total is the same. Lastly, let's look for just a second at total numbers of state legislative seats across the country. I want to give you a sense of perspective because a lot of times you'll hear, oh my gosh, we lost 100 seats or we flipped 100 seats, and it helps to have a context for that. Across the country, there are a total of 7,383 legislative seats. There are 5,411 House of Representatives seats, and there are 1,972 state Senate seats. We are at 2,337 Democratic representatives and 2,986 Republican, with 789 Democrat senators and 1,108 Republicans. In November of 2018, 82% of those seats are up. So 4,958 House seats and 1,108 Senate seats for a total of 6,066 legislative seats out of the 7,383. I found all of this information at this website. It's dedicated to researching state legislatures through the years, and there's a lot of analysis about what's going to flip, but I just want to give you a general introduction so you can understand the context for all that. Thanks for joining again. Thanks for caring about democracy. Hopefully these are helpful to you, and we'll be back with some special guests next time, so we'll see you then.